Wow, it has been a while since I have been doing this, but I'm back here in front of the camera and excited to be speaking with you guys again. Whit and I have been on a no content producing season of life as Maverick came into the world, and Whit did an amazing job with the delivery. And we've got Maverick home and we're kind of getting our systems in place. Whit has decided to take her full maternity leave, so she's going to take 3 months off, but I'm back here in front of the camera trying to figure out how in the world we used to do this now that we've got Maverick running around. And so I figured it made sense to start this off by speaking with you about Maverick and just sort of catching up on all the good stuff that's been going on. So many people have been asking. We've received crazy amounts of support. Our church has been coming through, making meals for us. We've had so many gifts come in of clothes and diapers and so much advice, and people just sort of helping with Whit and all of these women who have been down this road before that have done the difficult tasks that Whit is going through right now, and then families that have done what our family is doing. It has been incredible. It has been an amazing opportunity to just bask in the blessings that come from living in the community that we live in, being supported the way that we are. And overall, it has been a wonderful experience. That being said, it's also been very, very difficult. And I kind of want to dive into that right now because we have a unique opportunity to take a look at what mind management looks like in real time. Very often the clients that we work with, they kind of get this misconception that if you do enough thought models, if you do enough mindset work, if you do enough of this growth, then you don't need to do it anymore. Then you like elevate yourself to some place where life just becomes easy. But the truth is, what you're building is a skill that you can rest on in these times when life is more difficult. I like to think of it like running, that you're never going to run so much that you become so good at running that you don't have to run anymore. You will always have to keep on running, and running will always make you tired. And what you're going to build is a set of skills that help you be resilient in the face of that fatigue as you're running. When your lungs are burning and your legs are burning, how do you keep on going? How do you deal with that? What are the skills you can use to reduce it? But also, how do you show up in it? It's very similar with this mindset work. And so I just wanted to take this chance to look with you at some of the things that have been stirred up for Whit and I as we navigate this, and how relatable they are to just life at large. It's not like these are new challenges that we're facing. I mean, of course, parents have been facing them throughout all of time, but also the challenges with Maverick, they're not new thoughts, they're not new ideas, and they're not new difficulties that come along with our mindset and how we go about pursuing anything that might be difficult. So basically good and bad, if you want to call it that, the circumstances, the facts, the events that have come up with Maverick. Labor went pretty well, I guess, as labor goes. It looked very difficult. Whit did a really good job. She was actively pushing for a good hour and 15 minutes. I'll be honest, I have no idea if that's a lot of time or a little time. It looked like a long time from where I was sitting. I was very impressed and proud of her. As we got Maverick right there in the hospital, sort of sorting out how are we going to feed him, turned out to be right away a little more difficult than we had imagined. I've never been through the process of breastfeeding before, and I didn't realize that the milk's not there right away, that, there's some bonding, some cues that go on between Maverick and Whit that kind of get that going, release the hormones, have the milk production start, and it took a while. It did not come in. Whatever time period they're describing that you can expect your milk to come in, it did not come in that time. And that was definitely a source of stress that I'll get to shortly. Maverick wasn't latching very well when this began. And so, a lot of mindset drama about providing your child with the nutrients that he needs to grow right away. It just sort of comes out of nowhere. He's operating one way, we're living our life one way, he's living his life one way and inside of Whit, and then everything changes. And looking back now, it seems a little silly to panic about those things because it's so normal. However, like the running, when you're in it, it doesn't mean that just because you understand that it's a common thing that all the emotion goes away. On top of this, Maverick had jaundice, which is something that we sort of expected just because it's not an uncommon thing to have. We were a bit frustrated that it didn't go away. His jaundice levels, his bilirubin levels kept rising and rising and rising. And every time we would go to the doctor, we'd be thinking, okay, this is the time that we're going to get the news that this has gone better because we've been taking all the actions they prescribed. Yet we would go in and find out that it had only gotten worse. And it elevated to the point where we got at-home tanning beds, not really, the blue light. We had a blue light bed and a blue light blanket, and whenever we could, Maverick was sleeping on his back on the blue light bed with the blue light blanket on his front, and he was just surrounded by this fiber optic blue light going into him that was, helping to decrease his bilirubin levels, right? To get everything functioning the way that we would want it to be functioning, so we could kind of stop having to go to the doctor each day, stop monitoring all of this stuff, and just get back to a little more normal time with him. Additionally, because of the trouble that Maverick was having with latching and Whit's milk coming in, they were advising us to continue getting reps. Basically, we had to come to a decision. Are we going to breastfeed or not? And we decided, yes, we're going to go for it. We're going to go after it. And so the recommendation of our lactation coach, Jenna, who was awesome at Scott and White, she said, cut the bottle out entirely and just go for it. If you're going to go for it, get the reps. Get the reps in. Let him learn it. Let Whit learn it. Let Whit's body adapt to the situation. Go all in. And so we went all in, which meant that Whit was then basically living her life 1 hour at a time because it was taking her about an hour to feed Maverick, and then he needed to eat again 2 hours from when that 1 hour started. And so we committed to it. So Whit was living her life really in 1 hour blocks. And, much of that was sleeping, trying to eat a little bit, and of course, connect and bond with Maverick. So it was just a little bit of intensity, I guess, to live life in such a way. Now, of course, it was awesome. Like I said, we had so much support from family and friends. Maverick is just the coolest kid. Like, I could just stare at his face all day long. He will reach out his hand sometimes, and he'll put his hand on my arm while I'm holding him. And I'll tell you what, that's an incredible feeling. I don't know that there's much in this world that feels better than just having this young human just reach out and touch you, and to know the way that we are connected and are going to be connected throughout time. I definitely don't want to paint this as if it's some sort of negative picture, because it has been awesome. It has been really incredible. And there have been some tough times along the way. All of that, hopefully you cared about some of that. That's some information that you were wondering about and wanting to hear. We are doing well. Things are going well. And what we started noticing is that while we were in gratitude most of the time, looking at this human being that is now a part of our life, this prayer answered, that we really had to believe on purpose this was going to happen in terms of all of the hoops we had to go through to have Maverick, to have him here. It's a miracle. It's like looking at a miracle. Yet, sometimes that gratitude would go away, and I would notice that I was short with Whit, or Whit was short with me, and things that usually didn't bother us so much, they did a little bit more. Simultaneously, Maverick has bonded Whit and I in a way that is just so cool to experience. I feel so much admiration for her, so connected to her, so in love with her. She tells me she does the same for me, which is really nice to hear. However, sometimes we have just felt this valley of disconnection that shows up in our marriage and our day-to-day experience. We wanted to check on those two things. So simultaneously, there's a bit of a frustration, a fatigue, and annoyance that goes on with the tasks that are involved in taking care of Maverick, and then also this disconnection between the two of us. We just wanted to go see if there was a way to take this level we're living at and raise it up to this level, because that's what we do. That is our entire life and our business and what we're committed to here. I want to walk with you through sort of the steps, and I'm going to just switch this out of Whit rather than representing both of us. I'm just going to talk about me. You can check in with Whit about her experiences. I'm sure she'd love to share when the time comes. But for now, I'm just going to talk about a few things that I noticed. So I went in and I started looking at my thinking, doing actual thought downloads. I threw it back old school, and I set my timer for 7 minutes, and I started writing out my thoughts. A few of the thoughts that popped up that surprised me were that I'm wasting my time showed up. The idea here being that I have a limited amount of time on earth, and I have a limited amount of time that I'm healthy, and I'm already feeling like I'm older in terms of that progress of health. I no longer feel like, professional sports is a possibility for me where 15 years ago I did. And, there's little pieces like that where I'm like, wow, there are some things, some dreams that I used to sort of have back burner that have like gone away. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep climbing mountains. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep rock climbing. And so I had this little bit of a feeling of like, I would be holding Maverick sitting on the couch. I would be looking outside at a beautiful day and just longing to be out there and feeling a bit of just anxiety, impatience, maybe a little bit of worry even that life was going on without me. And so I spotted that thought. I'm wasting my time while I'm young. Like I'm wasting my good years right now sitting on this couch holding Maverick while all of life is happening out there, and I'm losing my last opportunities I have to really live big and live a great life. I also had a thought that it's not going right. I had an idea of the way breastfeeding was going to work, of the way jaundice was going to work, of the way Whit and I were going to be laughing and sharing time together at the faces Maverick made, and how I was going to be helping her. And I was like, this is not going right. And even as I'm talking about it right now, I'm realizing that one of the big hurdles I had to get over was that when we committed to breastfeeding, when we're like, there will be no bottles, we were going all in on breastfeeding, any opportunity that I used to fantasize about being the hero, about showing up and doing extra for Whit, about blowing her away with the amount I was going to contribute, what a great dad I was going to be, and how I was just going to show up above and beyond what any other dad had ever done. It kind of went out the window because I can't contribute much in that scenario. It really is me going into a position where I am supporting and loving and admiring and rooting on Whit. I kind of go into the role of like super fan, and I can be very impressed by what she does, but I can't take her burdens. She's got to do some stuff that's so hard that I'm not even sure I could do it. And so now I'm saying, for our family, Whit, it's going to be your job to do stuff that looks so hard that I'm pretty sure I could not step up and do it in your place. Good luck. I'm going to be here for you, supporting you, admiring you, but I step into the role of damsel in distress, and Whit steps into the role of hero. And that was a little tough. That felt against my expectations. That's where I could have this thought, like, this is not the way that this is supposed to go. And as a side effect of that particular thought, one of the things that I observed was that I was not communicating that I was feeling that way. I was not being forthright with the struggles that I was having. I didn't want to burden Whit any further. I wanted to try to stay positive, but it was actually leading to some disconnection because I was not bringing that stuff to the table. I was not being authentically me. I was sort of trying to manipulate Whitney's experience, trying to make it easier, still clinging to a little bit of that superhero, right? That I could show up and swoop in and save the day by not burdening her with my authenticity, which was in fact disconnecting us, and something that we have addressed since then. The last one is sort of a random one, that there's nothing more important than breastfeeding. I've said it a few times. We decided to go all in on breastfeeding. We really used language like that. Let's go all in on breastfeeding. We're either in or we're out. We're all in or we're out. An all or nothing sort of mentality. So those are the three thoughts that were revealed to me. They all seemed kind of true. I'm sitting on the couch instead of participating in my life. A lot of evidence to support that. It's not going right. This is not going the way I expected. I thought I was going to be able to contribute more. A lot of evidence to support that. And there's nothing more important than breastfeeding. All or nothing. We got to be all in on that. All three of those thoughts could easily be mistaken for truth. I could say that, no, this is the situation that we're in, and we're going to have to learn to live in that. It's important, I think, for anybody watching this to recognize that those are not unique thoughts at all. They are not specific to Maverick. They are not specific to our family. They are not specific to this growth journey that we're on. They're not specific to life change. They are super common, mundane, everyday thoughts that all of you have who are watching this that could hold you all back in the same way because they seem so true. Just thought that I know the future. I know the future somehow. I can tell what's going to happen next, and it's not good. It doesn't get any better than this. This is as good as it's going to get, and I've got to capitalize on this moment or I'm wasting my time. Imagine all the different areas in all the different people's lives where that exact thought is coming into play. It's not going to work. Just classic pessimism, right? If optimism is believing it is going to work, pessimism is believing it's not going to work. Neither one of them are facts. These are both just two beliefs, and we're just choosing which one we're going to cling on to. And then the last one is this all or nothing mentality. All in on breastfeeding, whatever it is that you're all in on. It could be your business, it could be your health, it could be your relationship and marriage. I'm all in. My marriage isn't going well, but I'm just never going to leave my spouse's side. I'm all in. I'm just going to go 100% all day, every day. Nothing matters except for this. And then all this stuff goes on the back burner. Self-care, nutrition, your movement, sleep, all these things can go to the side because you got this story running through your head that you've got to be all in on your marriage if this is going to work. So what do we do about it? Here I am, a mindset coach. What do I do about this whole thing once I see those thoughts? I like the expression, doubt your doubts. Go back and look at your stories and see where they're stories. Are they 100% true? And so I went and asked, am I really wasting my time when I'm young? Well, not 100%, because I'll tell you, I had this exact same thought 17 years ago when Paige was that age. And I was like, yeah, this is the best my life's ever going to get. There are no adventures for me after this. I'm just wasting my last time that I have. I was 30 at the time and convinced that, nothing great was going to happen after 30. And now here I am on this adventure with Whit, living the best time of my life ever. All 47 years, line them all up. This is the best it has ever been. And there I was 17 years ago, convinced that somehow I knew the future and that it was so much worse than this, that I was wasting the only time that I had left. So I've got to sort of admit that I don't actually know the future. It's not going to work. It's not going right. This isn't going the way that I plan. I just go back to my default thinking on this one that it will probably be okay. Because I have that so ingrained in me that it will probably be okay, that just because it's not going the way I expected right now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going poorly. I think a good example of this, actually, I grabbed from scripture. It came up recently. I was reading in John. I want to say it's chapter 20, verse 9. If I'm right about that, I'm so stoked. I don't know why that just popped into my head. But in there, John is describing the resurrection, seeing the empty tomb. And he says, to this point, we didn't know that he needed to rise from the dead. We didn't understand the scripture that said he needed to rise from the dead. The reason that's interesting to me is because they were kind of missing, the disciples were missing the biggest part of the plan, like the biggest part of the whole plan that they were involved in. They didn't get it. They didn't see it. They didn't understand that part. And so if I imagine them in the garden and the Roman soldiers come and they're arresting Jesus and they're taking him away, they would be very convinced that things were going poorly, that things were going wrong, that this was not the right direction. This does not end well, right? But they were wrong because they didn't actually know. It was only their expectation that was not being met. They expected certain things to happen and those things weren't happening. I expected this postpartum season to go a certain way, and it's just not going that way. I thought it was going to go this way, but I was wrong. It's going a different way. And I always have the authority of, okay, well, how am I going to show up in this then? Rather than how can I change it to match the expectation that I had previously? The last one is this reminder that this is my life, or Whit and my life, and I get to do whatever I want. We get to do whatever we want. When it comes to something like breastfeeding, we can be all in. I could say, yes, I'm all in on breastfeeding, and I could still say to Whit, listen, let's do one night with the bottle, and I'll stay up with Maverick, and I'll just feed him from the bottle. You get some sleep, and then we'll get right back to it the next day. That is an option. Even though maybe some of the coaches or the people or the perspective, the outside looking in, they're like, that's not a good option. You don't want to be doing that because these are the consequences. That we actually always have the option to say, like, yeah, I accept those consequences. I accept them. The fact that consequences exist doesn't mean we can't do that thing, right? Risk is okay. It's okay to risk and be wrong. It's okay to have a setback. All that stuff is fine. I spotted in the first case that I don't know the future, that I just get to choose whether I believe it's going to go well or whether I believe it's going to go poorly, whether it's going to be better than this. And what that gave me was the ability to be present. I'm just redirecting myself to this thought, no, what I want is to be present. And if I believe that it all works out, if I go to my vision of the future, if I go see where this is going to go, and I know that I get there, then this moment doesn't have the pressure in it. There's not a clock here. I'm not trying to get something done in a certain amount of time so that I'll be okay and I can have this belief be substantiated by the results I see in the present. If I can take all that pressure off and I can realize there is no clock, and that I will get there one way or another because I'm committed to getting there. I will keep on taking the next step. I will not give up the pursuit. Then this moment becomes a lot more calm, and something like wasting time becomes not a real thing anymore, and I can be present and enjoy my son. The next thing is this idea that it's not going right and it's not going to work out. It sounds very similar, but I addressed it separately because what I want to talk about with this is me being more honest with Whit and bringing some stuff to the surface of like, hey, this is where I'm having a hard time. This is where I'm struggling. This is where I see you struggling a little bit, and being wrong and offending each other and responding poorly to what the other one said. It's all part of it, and it's all okay. There's this verse in John where he's saying, this is the judgment. The light came and the people didn't want to go into the light because they wanted to hide what they were doing. They felt so guilty about what was going on that they hid from the light that could make it better in order to pretend that they were a different way than they were. They avoided the light. They hated the light. And so similarly, I found myself sort of pretending that I was better. I didn't want to take my sort of negative thinking, my complaining that went on in my head, the things that I thought were going wrong, I didn't want to bring them into the light. And so once I got to switch that thinking around, like, hey, this does work. There are solutions. There is a way for this to be better. This is on its way to something great. Then taking that action made more sense because what's the point? It's never going to get better. That argument was gone. And I was now saying, okay, how do I want to show up in this? Who do I want to be, and how do I want to stay connected with Whit? And I'll tell you, the results were 1,000 times better once I took on that vulnerability and that authenticity in those scenarios. And then the last one is just what we were talking about, that we get to do whatever we want. That Whit and I decided, look, the way we feed Maverick is up to us. We're the ones deciding this. We're the ones that are taking this journey. We get to do it how we want. And so what do we want? What would be the most fun way to be successful? What would we love to see? What's the journey that we are signing up to take? Let's get rid of all these lies that we're obligated to doing it some other person's way. And let's really get clear about how we want to do this. And I just want to wrap this up by saying the last piece of it has been immense prayer. We have been praying like crazy, inviting Jesus into this, inviting the Holy Spirit, inviting God the Father into this whole experience, because what I'm describing here is spotting some beliefs that weren't serving me and redirecting to beliefs that I believe will serve me better. And the way that you do that is you kind of take this new belief and it needs a place to attach on your mental framework from which you live your life. Like, it's got to attach to your worldview in some way. And I already have a framework where I believe that I can do all things through Christ, where I believe that God is real, that he is powerful, and that he's on my side, where I believe that I am a loved son of God, that I have favor with him, and he will show up on my behalf to bless me and walk with me and help me. I have that belief, and I have a pattern of protecting and growing that belief by, surrounding myself with a community of people that believe the same and discussing those beliefs, by reading the Bible that kind of helps me see how those beliefs can fit into not only my life, but lives that were lived prior to mine, by attending church, by singing songs that change my state. They remind me of what I aspire to be in this relationship, by walking with Christ by the lake. Like, I've got a framework. I have a worldview. I've got a very strong belief that exists already, that I have an ally in this. And so it really was helpful and beneficial to have that framework exist. It's one of the most wonderful parts about being a believer is that you spend your time building this framework. So it's there. It's a foundation that you can attach to. And that's something that Whit and I really did a ton of, was we prayed so that we could draw on that foundation so that we could access these blessings, this favor, and the power of Christ and God the Father and the Holy Spirit to sort of speak into the situation that we're in and fill us with this peace and this confidence that really allowed us to take authority over our felt experience of having a son and make it into something where when we look back, we're like, yes, I'm just so grateful that I was present in this blessing. So that's what mindset looks like in real time. I have definitely had some thoughts that were not serving me, and that's the process that I use to spot them and adjust them and really grab the reins or the steering wheel, however you want to think of that. I want to take control over my felt experience of my life here on earth. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Ask Steadfast. Whit and I are super excited to use this avenue to sort of spread our message. And so it would mean a ton to us if you'd subscribe to this channel. Additionally, if you have any questions you'd like to see addressed in future episodes, whether serious or funny, we'd love to see those in the comments. So leave that in the comment below, and we'll see you in the next one.